your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thanks so much for being with us here as we're set to dive into a subject I think you're going to enjoy. It's not going to be quite what you think because the initial title could have been The Work Ethic, but that's not the title. And of course, that's a big issue for a lot of folks. This is called The Wellness Ethic. It's how to thrive in an unpredictable world where stupid things can happen. Oh, really? I am shocked that could happen. My guest is Mark, and I'm gonna have you one more time just because I like the way you say it. Pronounce your last name for me again. Is it Reich?
It's Reinisch.
Reinisch. Thank you. And it's great to have you with us. I don't like to mispronounce my guest's name, so my apologies for doing that for the first time there. We won't do that again. But thank you for being with us. And I find it interesting, the subject matter of your book being wellness ethic, when we've got lots of issues just with ethics in general, not just in America, but across the board around the world. And the way I define ethics is basically doing the right thing. Am I fair? Is that a fair definition?
Oh, absolutely. The way I define a wellness ethic is it's a devotion to your well-being. So it's definitely doing the right thing for your life.
Wow. Okay. It's fascinating because I'm in a situation, as I briefly shared with you, where I don't know. I have to tell you that my work week isn't anything like it was even 10 years ago. Let alone 5, especially COVID, probably 5 years ago, actually changed my work week to where instead of going in 5 days a week, which I do enjoy doing, and having a great time doing what I do and then coming home, I now go in only 2 days a week. And I work from home the rest of the time. I'm at home right now, as a matter of fact, talking with you. And it seems as though it isn't just our workplace environments and all of that has changed, but it's literally everything. And REM has it right. It's the end of the world as we know it, every minute of every hour of every day, right?
Oh, absolutely. And my book deals with that quite a bit in the wellness ethic, because the old saying goes, the only constant in life is change. And if you look at it from many different angles, let's start with spiritually.
Hmm.
The law of impermanence, that is a foundation of most spiritual disciplines and faiths, says that everything will change. There's going to be a beginning, middle, and end. You're going to have positive things happen. You're going to have negative things happen. That's the way of life. It's the way it's designed. It's life being perfectly life. So the more you're able to accept that change is a reality and get your arms around it and frame it in a positive, life affirming way, realistic. You always
Hmm.
have to be truthful and realistic.
Right.
But when you're able to look at it with a more positive outlook, you're then able to do a very important thing, and that is to choose your response to your reality to move your life forward. And if you always keep that at the forefront of your mind, that you control your mindset in the moment, your attitude, and you're always empowered to choose your response to what's happening to move forward. That is incredibly empowering.
Now you talk about thriving in life and using what you refer to as the 80-20 rule. What is that? The
Yeah,
80-20.
the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle, you may remember that from school. What it basically says is that 20% of the actions you take translate to 80% of the results. So if you focus on the vital few, most important things, that's going to give the most impact. So how I use that in writing the wellness ethic is, if I'm going to write about wellness, mind, body, spirit, and relationships, your profession, what you pursue personally, I could write libraries of books on that, and it would be incredibly overwhelming. And people would read it and not know what to do with it. And that's why a lot of people, when they read self help books, may get a couple ideas out of it, but quite often don't do anything with it. So, what I intentionally did is I applied the 80-20 rule to all of these wellness concepts to narrow it down to the vital few elements to make it accessible and actionable. So, as an example, if you look at spirituality, what is that? How can you apply that to your life? It can be overwhelming for many people, and there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of books on that. What I propose in the book to simplify it is there's three core concepts that represent the vital few um, elements of spirituality that if you apply them to your life, that you'll get around 80% of the benefits of being more spiritual. And those would be starting with embrace your life purpose. Find out why you were born into this world and align your life to the best of your ability to that. Align your work, what you pursue personally, your relationships, everything. Try to align it to your life purpose.
Hmm.
And then bring more love into your life. Start with self love, love yourself, and then lead with love in every interaction with someone, in every situation. Put it through the lens of love. And when you do that, that goodness influences your mindset and your actions, and you feel and share more love throughout your day. It becomes habit forming, and that's a good thing. But you can do all those things I just talked about, live your life on purpose and bring more love into your life, and you're coasting and everything is wonderful. Then something stupid happens. And that's where the third principle comes in, and that's surrender. Surrender to the ways of the universe. And that means there's going to be ups and downs, things are going to change. Accept that change, surrender to it. Doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you wish it happened, but it did happen. That's reality. And then choose your response and how to move forward. And when you do that, you'll lead yourself to a better place. You'll reduce the suffering life cycle and you will thrive. So those spiritual concepts can be a game changer when you apply them.
All right. So I'm going to have you, without going into explanation, just give me the three principles once again. One, two, and three.
Yeah, purpose, love, and surrender.
Excellent. Excellent. By the way, folks, you can go to his website, wellnessethic.com, wellnessethic.com to find out more. And, I've asked this question of a number of people on this program in the past. It's interesting here in America, of course, and I wonder about other countries as well. But here in America, we have these documents, the founding documents of our nation. And in I believe it is it's either, I believe it's the Declaration of Independence. It talks about inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My question to you is, do you think they knew something about happiness? Because this is part of the aspect of thriving is to be happy. I send a message out to my late father saying, Dad, be happy because I'm happy. And
Right.
he's on the other side now, and so forth. So, and I know he's probably happy because he's out of that body that he was in. But do you think the founding fathers knew something about happiness that had them put the pursuit thereof, as opposed to just saying life, liberty, and happiness?
Without a doubt. And the way I interpret it, and I'm a history buff, so
Hmm.
your example really resonates with me. When I look at pursuit of happiness, those words, what it tells me is the reality of life. Again, there's going to be ups and downs. Challenging things are going to happen. You're not going to be happy every minute of your life. Even if you're the most spiritual person on the planet, you're going to have challenges in your life. But if you're constantly embracing the moment, living in the now, living in your reality, and working on your mindset to find the positive things in life, to be grateful for your many blessings. And where you're challenged, understand that that doesn't have to be your permanent state. That if you do take action, it can be small steps, but if you do take action to move forward and keep on pushing forward, what you're going to find in totality in that pursuit of well-being, you're going to find that you're thriving much more than you're being challenged, and your life is going to get better. It's only upside,
Hmm.
and that's what I think they meant by that.
Mark Reinisch is my guest. The book is entitled The Wellness Ethic: How to Thrive in an Unpredictable World. Ah, there's the proviso, though, where stupid things can happen. And we'll continue that conversation right here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and it's funny, Mark. As we talk more about your book, the wellness ethic, and the conversation we're having here, where stupid things can happen. When I moved to California, I did not think that I would develop any level at all of road rage. But boy, do I gotten really cranky with a lot of people who are doing just that, stupid things on the roadways at 60 and 70 miles an hour. Come on, people, wake up. And then one of my guests told me, they said, Richard, you do realize that they did not get up this morning saying, let's get Richard. Now there was it was sort of a double-edged sword, because on the one edge it was like, oh well, that's good, I'm glad that it's not personal. Then on the other side, you mean they don't care enough about me to make it personal?
Yeah.
But I had to realize finally that everybody on the roads is just trying to get from point A to point B. They have their own methods, so just be aware of what's going on around you. And you talked about the one constant in the universe, change, which is part of this too. I've kind of coined a new phrase. It may or may not catch on. It's fine if it doesn't. It's called divine flow, because that's just the way things work. You started out talking about the spiritual aspects of this, and a lot of people don't like change. All right, so there is no change. It's just divine flow. You get in the flow. And I use the example of laying flat out on your back in a river and just allowing the current to carry you from maybe over to one shore and then out into the middle, over to the other side, the other bank, and so forth. And that's sort of your purpose. Now, you could still sort of guide yourself. You could go over to that bank and then maybe get out of the river and maybe explore, then get back in and then start floating again, and allowing the universe to guide you to, but you have to be willing to do that. And some would say, well, but you're giving up your free will. I said, no, I'm not. I'm choosing. I am making the choice. In my book, Choices 5 Steps for Life, I talk about that. We have to make a choice. And it seems to me that this is part of the wellness ethic in that you have to make the first choice, and that is that you have to choose to want to take care of yourself. And it's with a small s here, a small s, right?
Yeah, and I really like that example. It's very vivid, divine flow. And the way I look at it as it relates to my book is that life moves on, change happens. There's a flow of your life, whether you choose to accept that or not. And what the wellness ethic proposes is to get into that flow of your life purpose, moving you forward. And that flow leads you towards more love. And that's the central theme in your life. And everything wraps around that. Now, there are going to be times where you veer to the right or the left. You may even get off out of that flow and onto the embankment.
Hmm.
And you may have to figure out how to get back into that flow, back into the water. And sometimes it may be a lazy river ride. Sometimes it's going to be whitewater rapids. And that's the ups and downs and nature of life. But it can lead you to a very good place. And I'll give you a quick example because you were talking about change and how people can struggle with change. I use a lot of storytelling in my book from my own life, and I show what good and not so good looks like. So I'll reveal a lot of embarrassing, hilarious examples from my life where I would screw up doing something. But one interesting thing when I was finishing my book, I wrote a lot about my adult life, being married, being laid off 4 times in my career, a lot of disruption, and other disruptors like a tornado leveling my house with me in it. So a lot of change. But I didn't explore my early childhood and high school and all that. So what I did at the end of the book, I took a road trip back home and visited all the towns that I grew up in, and just to go back to like that mindset when I was back younger, and what did I learn throughout life? And when I got to my hometown where I graduated from high school, I'd lived there for 6 or 7 years, and I walked from a parking lot a mile to where my house was, and I was stunned. It's a rural community outside of Plattsburgh, New York, right on the Canadian border. And I barely recognized it. I had not been back there for 25 years. And I even walked past my house without realizing this was my house. I went 100 yards past it because there were 3 times as many houses along the road. And I thought, I don't like all this change. It doesn't look the same. Everything is radically different. I wish it was the way it was. But then I caught myself, and change can be a good thing. It can move you forward. It can help you grow. And I thought, if things had remained the same, I wouldn't have been married. I wouldn't have had an interesting corporate career. I wouldn't have launched a social media startup. I wouldn't have written a book about wellness. I wouldn't have had 2 amazing children. And all the change that I went through is profound. And that really is the essence of life, navigating those changes to move forward. So it gave me a different perspective on change and its relationship to your life and your growth and your happiness.
Mm. Yeah, I can honestly tell you that I'm now facing that myself. But what's been fortunate for me in that respect is that it's been a slow process. It's a progression for me, as opposed to being thrown, into the fire, so to speak. I've been fortunate to gradually work into these different things. And I mean, and I even think about, for example, with our living situation, I even think about the landlords who submitted a new 12-month lease a year ago to us. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why didn't they tell us back then that this is a 1-year lease that we're going to terminate in 12 months, which gives you 12 months to look for a new place to live, because we want to do this, that, and the other thing. In terms of, well, why couldn't you just be upfront with us? Why do you have to be so covert? Well, that's not the way they are. That's the way they choose to play that game. And I'm not a fan of playing games. I don't like the drama. Okay, I've never really cared much for example, horror movies, and I don't care much for police, especially the ones of today, like the whole FBI series and stuff. I just not. It's not me. I'd like to. I'm not saying I don't want change. I'm just saying I just don't like the conflict and the killing and all of that stuff. I guess I'm a more easygoing kind of guy, you know, and if I can avoid it, I will. But at the same time, I also know too that, you know, life doesn't always work that way. It's sometimes these conflicts are thrown at you and you've got to find a way without, and I don't know how you feel about, for example, karma or cause and effect, you know, the old, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if this person comes at me and then I go at them, now we've really started to stir the pot and things really get crazy. It's like, I'd really rather not do that. I would like to go ahead and have. Do you ever read the book Who Moved the Cheese?
I have.
My boss back in 1980, I can't remember what year it was. It was a Christian radio station also. And he gave it to me. It was a mandatory reading. And I took it and I read it and I put it back on his desk. And I looked him square in the face and I said, look, I read it. Interesting story. I don't mind if people move the cheese. Just tell me where you moved it. And it
Yeah.
also doesn't work that way either, because that's part of the whole thing with what you refer to here, where stupid things can happen, that people will move your cheese. You know, whether you like it or not, they may not have even done it consciously. They may have just done it haphazardly. Um, what are some of the steps that you encourage people to use, some of the methods, what have you, to begin the process, as I refer to it, of embracing, loving, making friends with change so that when it comes, it doesn't rock their world like it does a lot of people when big changes come, like, oh, I don't know. You live out there, what, in South Carolina?
Yeah. Charleston.
Yeah, so you run the risk, even though it has to go inland, you run the risk of getting hit by hurricanes. You mentioned a tornado
Yeah.
earlier in your life. We have wildfires out here and earthquakes. They just had those massive earthquakes off of the Russian coast with the tsunamis that hit the west coast of U.S. and of course Japan and so forth. What what do you tell people who say, "Look, I don't like it, but you're saying I need to embrace it. I need to learn how to make it my friend. How do we do that?"
Yeah, that's a great question. And when I started writing the book, I intentionally chose to devote the first quarter of the book to adopting change. And I broke it up into two sections. One was this model I call the accept, frame, respond model. And then the second was a bunch of techniques on how to adopt change in your life. And the reason why I did that was twofold. One, as you talked about, change will happen to you whether you want it to or not. The vast majority of it's out of your control. So I
Mhm.
wanted to give people tools and mindsets, wisdom, and being very, very practical on how you can adapt to that change and sometimes even turn it into a positive um, for when the stupid things happen. But secondly, as you read the wellness ethic and we get into mind, body, and spirit, how to develop loving, rewarding relationships, how to find more meaning and joy in your profession, and how to, have your personal passions, how to thrive with those and just get a whole bunch of happiness out of it. Um, it's part of that is going to be developing healthy habits and moving forward and making that habit forming so it just becomes who you are. So I wanted to give you tools and approaches on how to do that. So for example, when I was three-quarters of the way through the first draft of the wellness ethic, and I had spent 4 years getting to that point, writing probably around 20 hours a week as I'm doing my full-time job, I was thrown a curveball where I was laid off from my job, and I was in technology. I led a unit called business transformation, so it was driving change within companies, and I didn't see this curveball coming at all. And but the crazy thing is, within 5 minutes of finding out and hanging up the phone, I was working remotely. I walked into where the room where my wife was, and I said, "Kristen, you're not going to believe this, but I've lost my job." And she goes, "What?" And she was shocked because a month prior we had been at my boss's house celebrating the holidays. So, but within 5 minutes of finding out I lost my job, we decided I'm going to take a 2 year sabbatical from corporate America, and I'm going to devote myself to writing my book, finishing it, getting it published. And she was a stay-at-home mom. She said she'll go back to work because our children had left the nest so that we would have medical benefits and some income coming. So then I spent a few days crunching the numbers to make sure I could actually do this crazy notion, and found out, I could. And I can make ends meet. It's not going to be the end of the world. And if this doesn't pan out, I'll go back to corporate America, and that'll be fine. I may have to extend my retirement by a few years to make up ground. But that's what I ended up doing. So I applied that accept, frame, respond model. I accepted the reality that I lost my job. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did. I framed it as, again, what a wonderful gift to be forced to make a choice, because I wouldn't have made that choice otherwise, because it would have been too uncomfortable to take that risk. But now that the door was open, what a wonderful opportunity to immerse myself in the creative process of writing a book. That's going to be on my bookshelf. It's going to be part of my legacy for my children, for myself. And then because I framed it as a gift, I was able to quickly choose that response to take that sabbatical without fear, confident it's going to work out in the long run, one way or the other. And I attribute that to applying the learnings that I was getting from writing this book and applying those concepts to my own life. So that's what the first quarter of the book is devoted to help people get their arms around change and turn it into positive momentum in your life, to make it real.
That is something that, as I've shared a bit with you prior to the interview, that is something that I'm starting to look at. It's like, all right, we had just buried our dog, 13-year-old dog, in what is called our backyard here. We live in the wilderness up here on the mountain above Santa Barbara. And we had just taken a drive out of town just to get away because of all of the emotion. And we come back, and what do we find taped to our front door? The notice, okay? And believe it or not, one of the first things that went through my mind was, wonder what we should do next. Not, we need to find a place to live right away, or, all of those, we need to find someone who can help us to pack all of this stuff, da-da-da. No, it was, the possibilities are literally endless. I mean, we had talked about RVing in this portion of our lives, buying a 20 or 30 foot standard RV that we could buy with, standard license, so forth, with our cats and so forth. That would be interesting. And then of course you just, and my mind just started going, of course we want to move to Ireland. That's really what we want to do. I think the logistics involved in that are a little bit more, but it was like, okay, hold on, Richard, don't get into the details. Stay out of the details. Just dream. Just imagine where you could go, what you could do. And I think that a lot of folks, and by the way, you talked about losing your job 4 times, being laid off.
Yeah.
In 2020, I was laid off from a radio station. And then I took on 3 other jobs that I was laid off from in that next 360 in 2020 into 21. And the first two times I went to unemployment, but within 2 weeks I had a new job. So the next two times I was laid off, I didn't bother because I figured, look, if I got a job in 2 weeks the first two times, I will get another job in these two times. So you just never know what's going to happen. By the way, folks, I want to share something with you real quick here that Mark has written. Mark Reinisch, and it is that it is a rare self-help book. This is the book we're talking about, The Wellness Ethic, that you won't be able to put down unless the sheer bulk of it tires your arms and you drop it. Now I'm guessing that this is available in Audible. Is it?
Not Audible yet. That's the next step, but it's definitely available in print, soft cover, hardcover, and ebook right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about the whole Audible thing because that's one of the things that I happen to produce. So we might talk a little bit about that. It's the wellness ethic and how to thrive in an unpredictable world where stupid things can happen. As we continue talking with Mark Reinisch here on Tell Me Your Story. Mark Reinisch, my guest. Mark, this is fascinating in that it's dealing with a subject again that most people I don't know where it ranks among talking about this versus dying or death, but that's a big change right there. But I know that people we have really gotten bad at dealing with the important things in life. I used to say that if the planet Earth was to hold a seminar, like three evenings and then a weekend kind of thing that I went through back in the 80s called Life Spring, it would be on crisis management because that's what we do best. We that's all we know how to do. Now you talked about who brought up, was it you or your wife who you obviously agreed on this about taking this 2-year sabbatical because that seems to be a huge step. I mean, I would love to do that myself. Now, granted, I am getting Social Security. Okay, great. So is my wife. That's not really enough. I would really like to have a little bit bigger buffer. So I'm going to continue working and doing the things that I love to do. But who came up with that? Who was the brainchild behind that one?
It was my wife, and because when I told her about it, now she had been listening to me for 4 years, whining about how busy things are. I just wish I could just devote myself to my book. That's what I love to do. That's my calling, and on and on. So it was top of mind for her, but she had been reading my book as well, along with my children and others as I'm writing and giving feedback. So she understood and embraced the concepts. So she was in a different place as for being part of this book than maybe she was when she started reading it as I was finishing each chapter. But what was so interesting about it, beyond the fact that that was her immediate response, well, take the time off and finish the book because that's what life is about. Pursue your passions if you can do it, or find a way to do it. And then I immediately jumped on that and said, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put any fear aside. We're going to find a way to yes on this. And what was also interesting about it, we were in a similar situation when we were around 30 years old or so. And I was working at GE, General Electric, and I had just gotten a really nice promotion. And at the same time, I was writing screenplays as a side hustle. And I had won a grand prize in a national screenwriting contest, which was a full year scholarship to film school in Victoria, British Columbia. It was a 1-year degree. It could be in screenwriting or filmmaking. What a wonderful opportunity. But we had a young child and we wanted to have another one. And I just gotten the promotion, and that seemed really risky to just sell our house, sell everything, move out there, wait tables, try to make ends meet with a young family, give up a promising career. It was too daunting, so I didn't do it. And there was always a level of regret on her part that we didn't do it. I never regretted it, because it was a conscious decision that the risk reward equation just seemed out of whack. I wasn't comfortable making that leap because if it didn't work out, I didn't have a safety net and I would have to start all over. It could, compromise our children's upbringing and opportunities for them. I wasn't willing to do that, especially when I could continue to write screenplays as a side hustle. But the risk reward equation was very different this time around, and we were open minded to it, where we thought if this doesn't work out, then I'll find a job back in corporate America and we'll just continue on the path we were on. And in the meantime, I'll have the time of my life. And that's how it worked out. So it was a very obvious choice if you're spiritually aligned and you're looking at the big picture of your life and you're trying to live your life on purpose to the best of your ability.
Well, now that's an interesting phrase you used, spiritually aligned. I want to talk a little bit about that kind of an alignment. One of the promote things that we promote on this program, we ask people to take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and we ask them to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. How important is that in your mind regarding spiritual alignment?
Yeah, I think you can look at it from many different angles. When I look at my own life and I think about spiritual alignment, I go back to life purpose. Am I bringing love into my life? Am I surrendering to what I need to surrender to? So when I think about life purpose, for instance, I would define my life purpose something along the lines of I exist to improve people's lives through my spirit to serve, my creativity, my ability to simplify the complex, and also my sense of humor. And when I think about how my life has aligned to that, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good because with how I've approached my family and especially my children and even my wife, I've done everything humanly possible to help them pursue their passions in life, not how I define it, but how they define it. And I'm here to support in any way I can. And I look at my profession, my corporate career didn't exactly line up to my life purpose. So I always had side hustles, whether it was writing screenplays for 20 years and having fun with creative writing, writing comedies, and trying to sell one, to launching a social media platform as a side hustle with my corporate job, and did that for 4 years and ended up selling it. So we had a decent outcome, and certainly writing the book that challenged me and lined up perfectly with my life purpose. So, and then moving in the direction of well-being. A phrase I use in my book is nurture the wonderful gift of your existence. So I've genuinely have tried my best to do that throughout my life. And that's being spiritually aligned with how I live my life with my spirit. And it's never been perfect, but when I catch myself and think, I'm out of line, then I've worked very hard to course correct. And in fact, the genesis of this book, writing the wellness ethic, was to uncover the essence of well-being and how to practically become more well in all aspects of your life so you can thrive, because I wasn't feeling like I was thriving in my own life. I was spiritually misaligned. But spiritual alignment also applies to all those you interact with, your partner, your children, your colleagues, and are you generally rowing in the same direction? And I think the most rewarding and loving relationships is you're kind of like a Venn diagram, two overlapping circles where you definitely have some independent dreams and everything, but the essence of your lives that you share are aligned and you do move forward in a direction together. And when you find that type of partnership, that's when it starts to really come together in your relationships.
You wear several different hats, and one of them is as a humorist. You mentioned that you do write comedy and so forth, and you've put some of those things out there. How important is not just humor, but laughter in this process? If we're working towards a life of greater happiness, which again, Og Mandino said in his book, The Greatest Miracle in the World, that I read back when I was 22, I'm now 65. He made the comment in a conversation in the book where he said the main character was commenting about happiness. Is like, if you want to find people who are happy all the time, I can show you some institutions where they're happy all the time. Well, we're not, but we would like to. I love watching these little shorts on the comedians who tell these, their jokes. Sometimes they're about themselves and so forth. How important is that in our lives? Not the joke telling per se, but laughter and happiness in that regard.
Yeah, if you look at the science, it's pretty conclusive. And if you just think about your own personal experience, when you're laughing, you are happy in the moment. You're finding joy. The hormones, endorphins, or whatever are booming, and that gives you a good feeling. And laughter can be a great remedy. It can serve so many purposes. So if you're struggling, if you're angry, if you're stressed out, if you take a break and watch a YouTube video or watch a movie, and laugh and have that escape, it's going to reset your mind. And then when you go back to your regular day-to-day life, you're going to be that much more positioned to cope, to sort through what's going on and find your path forward, because that reset gives you peace of mind. And when you're less stressed, you make better decisions. You choose better responses. You choose more loving responses because you're in a better frame of mind. So humor can be very potent. And even if you have something bad happen to you, if you stub your toe or you accidentally break something, if you find the humor in it and you can just laugh at your clumsiness, again, that gives you a perspective about life, that life is to be lived, not judged. Have fun. We all screw up very often throughout our lives. No one's immune from it. And that is a big theme in the book and why I use so much humor in it. And I use a lot of humor in the book. And it's different than just about any self-help book out there. And that's one of the reasons. Because I really wanted to accomplish two things. I wanted it to be an engaging reading experience, at times a page turner where you're going to laugh out loud, you're going to find things very amusing, and that breaks it up and makes the material more accessible, and you're more alert. But also it's sending the message that, again, laugh at life, have fun with it. There's a time to be serious, but infuse laughter and joy throughout your day, and you're going to thrive a whole lot more. So humor is important, I believe.
And on that same line of thinking, what about music? How important is that in this process of thriving in one's life and being happy?
It has really the same effect, in that music can be in the background and it can be soothing. It can just put you in a more peaceful state. There are studies that show that if you have music in the background, jazz is a great example if you like jazz, but that can boost your creativity for whatever you're doing. It has that magical effect, but it definitely can have a calming effect. It can take you to another time in your life. If you play a song that you grew up with, you're going to be transported back to that time, and you're going to remember the good times and all that. And I reference music in the book along those dimensions, that if you need to break up what's happening in the moment and just get away to reset your mind, listen to one of your favorite songs, listen to an upbeat dance song. And if you're really brave, get up and actually move and dance and don't worry about it. Because again, it's going to put you in a different, healthier frame of mind. So music and comedy can really be stress releasers for you. They're very powerful.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more there. Wellnessethic.com is the website. The Wellness Ethic, how to thrive in an unpredictable world where stupid things can happen. My guest is Mark Reinisch, and this is Tell Me Your Story. We are talking about quite literally an unpredictable world. Mark Reinisch, author of The Wellness Ethic. I try not to watch the news or listen to it, in spite of the fact that for most of my career, I have worked for news talk and information stations. So it's been a challenge. But I always have to chuckle when I hear economic news, because it doesn't matter what the numbers are, economists are never happy. So I have actually said this on programs over the years to any economists who might be listening: what numbers would make you happy? Because I would really like for you to be happy with the numbers that come out, even when the numbers are great, no recession, no inflation, growth is going crazy, and so on and so forth. They're still not happy because they see impending doom somewhere down the road. It's like, do you sleep at night at all? That kind of thing. Does it help us to disconnect from a lot of that stuff that's really not helping us? It's not that we don't want to or need to be informed about what's going on around us, but at the same time, this is my perspective, I already know of man's inhumanity to man as long as man has been here. If you want to go all the way back to Cain and Abel, okay, that's where it started, so to speak. And it's been going on ever since. So why do I have to fill my head and my eyes with the images and the sounds of it when I could be filling it with humor and laughter and music and so forth? Your thoughts on almost disconnecting from the real world, or the social media sites and news and so forth?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head by saying almost disconnect. And in the book, I definitely talk about that. The concept of surrender applies, but when I write about the mind and how to build a positive, healthy mindset, I talk about positive thinking. You would expect that. I talk about mindfulness. I talk about emotional intelligence. But the fourth concept in my 80-20 view of what is the essence of building a healthy mindset is the concept of healthy detachment. And I say healthy detachment because you don't want to suppress your emotions. Mm-hmm. You want to deal with them constructively and positively. And so I lean on the Stoic view of detachment. And that's steeped in the concept of you focus on what you can control. And that is your mindset and your responses to life. So you'll hear that constant theme in the wellness ethic: choose your response to your reality to move your life forward. So when you detach in a healthy way, you'll look at something like climate change or the division in our country or the cruelty that can happen throughout the world. And you will recognize, as you said, that unfortunately is a reality of life. You or I personally are not going to transform the world and change that, though we would absolutely love to, of course. But we can't do that. So we have to choose what is our response to that. Now, for me, I will be very interested in causes that relate to climate change, and I try to do my part and make a difference, and certainly walk the talk when it comes to that.
Hmm.
Politics, I wish, were radically transformed. And I got to the point after the election, I had to stop watching all cable news because it would just plummet my mood instantly. And I can't change it. I can't change that division that's out there. I can just play my very small part. So there are things that I have to disconnect from, and then choose how I'm going to engage more on my terms. So when it comes to current events, I'll look at a news site each day. I'll skim the headlines. Very rarely will I open up the article. I'll just want to have an idea of what's going on because it could be relevant to my present and my future, especially when you look at the economy and my retirement plan or my job outlook with artificial intelligence. I want to be ahead of that curve as much as possible. So I don't want to be ignorant of my surroundings, but I want to choose how I engage on my terms based on what I can control. And when you adopt that mindset, it really can change so much in your life. You gravitate towards more things that bring you happiness and fulfillment, and you avoid the traps of all the things going on that want your company. They want to bring you down to that level of negativity and at times hatred. So control what you can control, and it will do wonders for your happiness.
It's great advice. It really is. And I go on Facebook and YouTube, but when I go do look at the the reels as they call them, when I scroll to a news feed, it's a quick scroll away. Or anything
Yep.
that has to do with the state of. Matter of fact, we have a wildfire burning quite a distance to the north of us right now. It's about, as of this conversation, about 83,000 acres. It's been burning since the 2nd of August. And, we've been dealing with wildfires here in this cottage that we live in since 2006. And we're talking 16 or 17 wildfires, only evacuated once. But as I'm scrolling through, and again, it's an algorithm, and my microphone must be open on my phone, and apparently they must have heard that there's wildfires. So what are the videos that I'm looking at? Current wildfires that are also in other places in California. It's like, I don't want to see these. I know what fire looks like. I know what a tree looks like burning. Enough already. Enough. Go away, go away, go away. And I look for like Robin Williams doing a comedy bit or whoever, and just wanting to laugh. I mean, one of my favorite satirists is Stan Freberg. Oh my gosh, what a great library that I have of his stuff that I go back and listen to. Probably wouldn't go over real big today in today's climate, but man, that stuff is still, to me, it's funny. It's still just as funny. And I love the aspect of the laughter. So, folks, hey, put a laugh track with your music and get double dose there. It'd be a good thing. We're talking with Mark Reinisch and the Wellness Ethic here on Tell Me Your Story. Mark, I always hate for these conversations to come to an end because they are so much fun, especially this, because you're doing something that you may not even realize, and that is this. There's a passage in the New Testament where the disciples are watching as the master is basically doing a magic trick. And they're going, wow, could you teach us how to do that? And his response, I paraphrase, I'm not King Jimmy here. I paraphrase. He says, what, this? Oh, that's nothing. I'll teach you, but you guys are going to do greater works. And here's what I believe the greater works are, or work even, is the transformation of our lives. And that's, I think, what you are all about with the wellness ethic, is helping people as well as yourself to transform your life into a life of, and I found out this is a word, I didn't come up with it, thrival. to thrive instead of just survive. We're in the 21st century. Why are we still surviving? Why aren't we thriving? Thank you for putting this book together and being a part of the work that we're doing here.
No, I appreciate it, Richard. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests, and I'm going to ask those of you as well. But first, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. That's 9 different broadcasts that you can listen to, and they're streamed live at richarddugan.com with SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. Those are the podcast locations. And we're also on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. Please subscribe and click notification. And we also ask that you pick up a copy of my book choices, 5 Steps for Life, available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, with Audible soon to be released. And if you'd like to leave us a tip, we have a tip jar. It's called PayPal. And we have links on the homepage of richarddugan.com to both. We hope that you will give what you can. We'll take energetic support as well. And we thank you for those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, please take the time to go within to that quiet, peaceful place during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, and listen to that still small voice. With all of that being said, we move to our final 3 questions for a very special guest. And the first of those is, who is Mark Reinisch?
I'm a humble person who is just doing my best to find different ways to nurture the full gift of my existence and to truly feel that and try to help people live the happiest lives that they can. That's my purpose.
What gets you up in the morning?
Rarely an alarm clock. It's a need to begin my wonderful morning habit that I've just fallen in love with, and that is to wake up and feed my cats because they get angry if they don't. But then to go on an hour-long walk around my neighborhood, see moonlight, see deer stampeding in front of me, just really embrace nature. It makes me feel very peaceful. Then I come back, and on one day I'll do strength training. On the next day I'll do cardio. But then I'll cook a wonderful breakfast, and it's basically the same breakfast every day. Soy milk that's fortified with bananas, oats, and blueberries, milled flaxseed, and then I have a glass of orange juice and some almonds. And that beginning to the day helps my mind, body, and spirit. So no matter what happens, the rest of the day can be totally crazy. That foundation gives positive energy that helps me appreciate life more, makes the good times better, and it helps me deal with the challenging times. So I look forward to that routine every morning. It's precious.
I'll be by shortly for breakfast. Sounds great. It really does. And finally, what was your best day?
In my life, I love my family, so their births and marrying my wife. But the most special day, and I'm getting a little emotional right now, but my youngest daughter, and I write about it, when she was a teenager, she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that's a connective tissue disorder, genetic. And it resulted in 2.5 years of chronic daily headaches to the level of a 4 to 6 out of a scale of 1 to 10 every single minute of every single day for 2.5 years straight, if you can imagine that. On top of that, she had migraines 5 to 7 times a week, that would jack up the pain level to an 8 to 10 level. She was pulled from school. We did homeschool, and this was pre-pandemic. And she was a high achiever. It blew up her life in every aspect, and we worried every day, like, is this going to be permanent? How can she survive? But through wonderful medical support, trial and error over those 2.5 years, the right combination of Botox and a muscle relaxant finally relieved it. And the day that she told us that she had a pain-free day, sorry, again, a little emotional, I'll never forget it.
Mm. Well, our best to you and your family, everybody there. And we look forward to having you back again to continue this conversation. This is, to me, this is fascinating. I did have a final question, but it has to do with your book. What part does Thomas Thoreau play in this book? Because you have him quoted in there and a picture of him in the front of your book.
Yeah, the quote that I use, and I have it written down here, I learned this, at least by my experiment, that if one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. And what that tells me is to keep on moving forward in the direction of your dreams. And the odds are it's not going to work out exactly how you envision, because so much change is going to happen. But if you keep on moving forward, you're going to meet a level of success that you couldn't have even imagined, and it's going to be good. So in my life, I never imagined that I would launch a social media startup. I did not imagine that I was going to have a wonderful wife and 2 amazing children. I never imagined I was going to write a book about wellness. I couldn't even conceive of those ideas, but I kept on moving forward in the direction of my purpose, and life came together. And it's been wonderful as I look at it. So that's what that quote means, and it applies to everyone.
Well, Mark, once again, thank you so much for being a part of the work we're doing here. We really appreciate your contribution, not just to this program, but to the world at large. And we thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.